Well, hello, all you fans of the book of Hebrews and our series we've been going through. We will not be there today. We weren't there last week due to our special services with the Porterville Church, which were quite a blessing. So I appreciate all who could partake in that. And before that, we had Easter's. And so we did get to Hebrews chapter 9 in there. So we will continue our wonderful study through the book of Hebrews next week, the Lord willing, unless he has other plans, which we want to adapt to. So while we look forward to getting to Hebrews chapter 10 eventually, today we will be in a couple other places, starting with the Gospel of Matthew chapter 15. If you'd like to join me there. So heads up for this morning, we will be in the book of Matthew, we'll be in the book of John, chapters 2 and 19, book of Acts, chapter 1, and we'll close out in Isaiah. So you have kind of a roadmap of where we're going. So if I've got, so let's say Acts is the fourth passage we're going to look at. That doesn't mean that, hey, we're 4/5 of the way done with the message. That just means, yeah, so that's not a gauge. Because I could spend a few minutes on one passage and then 45 minutes on another. So no guarantees by that, but just so you know the roadmap we're going to be taking through the scriptures here. So for our Mother's Day together, our Ladies Appreciation Day, that will of course be the focus of this morning's message. And the title for this message, the theme will be Moms Never Stop. And so we'll take a look at a few examples of that. Right off the bat, I want to look at the example in Matthew 15 of a lady who is referred to as the Syrophoenician woman. Syro referring to Syria, Phoenician referring to Phoenicia, which is modern-day Lebanon. So basically from the area of Jezebel. And so this woman, Gentile, while Jesus Christ with the church is traveling and on this circuit in the area. So let's look at this mom, an example of moms never stop. So let's see what happens with this Gentile woman here. Matthew 15:21. Jesus went away from there and withdrew to the region of Tyre and Sidon. And a Canaanite woman from that region came out and began to cry out, saying, "Have mercy on me, Lord, Son of David. My daughter is severely demon-possessed." But he did not answer her with even a word. And his disciples came up and urged him, saying, "Send her away because she keeps shouting at us." But he answered and said, "I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." But she came and began to bow down before him, saying, "Lord, help me." Yet he answered and said, "It is not good to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs." And she said, "Yes, Lord, but please help, for even the dogs feed on the crumbs that fall from their master's table." Then Jesus said to her, "O woman, your faith is great. It shall be done for you as you desire." And her daughter was healed at once. Now, I wasn't originally going to include this passage, but it's a good setup for where we will be in John chapter 2 after this. So a few things about this mom and our theme, moms never stop. So here's this Gentile woman who recognized Jesus for who he is. The Jewish Lord, the Jewish Messiah, the Jewish Son of David. So she comes to him because her daughter is severely demon-possessed. So this mom is burdened. She comes to people to whom she is an outsider. But that doesn't stop her. She comes to people who, when she first arrives, Jesus isn't answering in verse 23, but the disciples are. The church is saying, "Hey, get rid of her. She's distracting us with her noise. Yeah, she's shouting at us." Not the great attitude for a church to be having, but we'll get to that. So verse 24, Jesus tells her, "I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." Basically, I'm Jewish Messiah. I'm here for the Jews. And we might be thinking, but wait a minute. The Jews were supposed to be a light to the Gentiles, and Jesus was all about, for God so loved the world, not just the Jews, but the world. So what's going on here? Spoiler alert, Jesus already knew what was going to happen. Jesus already knew what he was going to do. This is what we refer to as a teachable moment for the church, for her, and for us today. Again, with the emphasis for the purpose of this morning's message, moms never stop. Jesus says, I was sent only to the lost sheep of Israel. But she came and began to bow down before him, saying, Lord, help me. She didn't walk away because Jesus's cohorts were saying, hey, she's making noise, get rid of her. She didn't go away because Jesus was saying, hey, my focus is with the Israelites, the Jews here. In fact, what did she do? Verse 25, she came and began to bow down before him. Not even his own Jews were bowing down before him. Praise God for his early church made up of the Jews that were recognizing him for who he was. But the majority of his people were not bowing down to him. This Gentile was. Out of her burden for her daughter, she was willing to humble herself and submit herself, calling him Lord, petitioning him. Verse 26, and he answered and said, it is not good to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs. Did Jesus just insult her, calling her a dog? Did she stick around for that? Would that be enough to upset her ego and her dignity and cause her to get up and walk out and say, forget this guy? No, she agreed with him. Wow. And how did she agree with him? Verse 27, she said, yes, Lord. Meaning Jesus was right. This is something that you have done for your people, and it's not to be taken away from your people, from your children, and given to the dogs. No, but she said this in verse 27, please help, for even the dogs feed on the crumbs that fall from their master's table. Abraham and his people were to be a blessing to all nations. This would be an overflow, starting with the Jews and then going out to the Gentiles. Jesus knew this, obviously, of course. She recognized, even though I'm not one of your people, well, I'm not one of the Israelites, I'm not one of the Jewish nation here. Your blessings are so powerful and great that even an overspill, even an overflow, even just a crumb that falls from your children's table to us outsider dogs is good enough, is precious, is beneficial. So Jesus, verse 28, said to her, oh, woman, your faith is great. It shall be done for you as you desire. Daughter was healed at once. So moms never stop. This mom wanted the Lord's best for her daughter, who was hurting, who was suffering from this demonic affliction. She did not let anything stop her out of this mother's love that she felt. Not these words that Jesus said, I'm only here for the lost sheep. Not good to take the children's bread, throw it to the dogs. She knew there was a blessing to be had by coming before the Messiah, Jesus, the Lord, the Son of David. She didn't let anything get in the way of that. And in fact, she did not let her pride get in the way of her dignity. She submitted herself. She basically, we would say the word abased herself, which means reduced herself to base bottom line. And Jesus saw her heart. Now, again, Jesus knew from the beginning what he was going to do here. Make no mistake. Jesus allowed her to be in her humbling herself, to be a shining example. Wow, she got what so many of the Jews did not get at that point in time. She got that there were blessings to be had by submitting and onto and honoring and recognizing Jesus for who he was. And so his own church, who's saying, drive her away, she's making noise and distracting us, this lesson was for them. This lesson was to see that Jesus would receive and honor someone with resolve and determination in their faith. She knew her daughter needed this help. She knew he was the one who could provide it. She knew she didn't deserve it. But guess what? Neither did the church. And we know all the blessings we have are not because we deserve them. We rejoice in them, we celebrate over them, but it's because of God's love for us. his desire to honor us as we come to him. Sometimes, yeah, that takes some humbling of ourselves. But God is faithful, and this woman is a glorious, shining example, this Gentile woman, of what determined faith in God can do for us. And this was an example of a mother's love for her daughter. She was not going to let anything get in the way of what God could do for her daughter. So with that example of moms never stop, now we're going to go to the Gospel of John chapter 2. We're going to be looking at a couple passages relating to Mary, the mother of Jesus. Now, oftentimes the focus is the conception and the birth and all that, which obviously is great stuff. But I want to look at Jesus's mother after all that. Jesus's mother dealing with grown-up Jesus. So even after the 12-year-old incident at the temple and all that stuff. So let's look at Mother Mary dealing with grown-up Jesus, now that he's an adult and out doing his thing. So here in John chapter 2, and I'm going to tie this in to the Syrophoenician woman here. John chapter 2, just to catch us up from John chapter 1, Jesus has been baptized by John the Baptist. He's had his temptation in the wilderness. He's come back, been pointed out by John the Baptist. There's the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world. Two of John's disciples go to join with Jesus. And talking about gathering in Jesus' name, they came to him on his terms. Jesus turned to them and asked them, "What do you see?" And they said, "Where are you going?" He said, "Come and see." And so they stayed with him and followed him. So there's the church right there. These two disciples who have become apostles were John and Andrew. Andrew went and grabbed his brother Simon, brought him to Jesus. Jesus said, "You're going to be Peter, Simon Peter," at that moment. So now we got three. Then Jesus went and called Philip. Philip went and gathered Nathanael, who said, "Can anything good come out of Nazareth? Come and see." Brought Nathanael. So we've got 5 apostles, we got 5 disciples, 5 members of the church here in John chapter 2. So let's take a look at just the first 5 verses with what takes place here and his mother Mary's involvement. Again, moms never stop. So what does mom of grown-up Jesus do in John chapter 2? Let's take a look. John 2 verse 1, on the 3rd day, there was a wedding in Cana of Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there. And both Jesus and his disciples were invited to the wedding. When the wine ran out, the mother of Jesus said to him, "They have no wine." And Jesus said to her, "What business do you have with me, woman? My hour has not yet come." Verse 5, where we'll stop. His mother said to the servants, "Whatever he tells you, do it." We'll stop there. So grown-up Jesus, starting his church, is doing his own thing, moved out from mom on his own. They're all at this wedding together, and there's a problem. They run out of wine, and mom comes to Jesus and says, "Hey, they've run out of wine." And Jesus says, "What's that got to do with me? My hour has not come yet." Sounds like Jesus is telling his mother Mary, no. Just like he was telling the Syrophoenician woman, no. And just like the Syrophoenician woman, Mary did not take no for an answer. Does that mean they were defying Jesus? Were they rebelling against Jesus? No. They both had something in common as mothers. And that commonality was their faith in what the Lord can do. In this case, Mary's faith in her son that the Father had provided. And so we see that faith because when Jesus says, "It's not time yet," Mary says, she's done talking with Jesus. She's already told Jesus, "Hey, here's the problem." Then, as far as she's concerned, it's settled. Now she's talking to the servants. Hey, what he says, do it. Which I think is just so cool. She's like, it's already matter of fact. In fact, in the historical fiction of The Chosen, she throws the question at him, "Well, if not now, when?" You know, that's a common joke between them back and forth afterwards. But so whatever he says, do it. How and why could Jesus's mother Mary just after presenting the problem to Jesus, just move on to tell the servants, "Hey, get ready, do what he says"? Because she had such great faith in her son. And Jesus, why did he say it's not his time, but then after this, go ahead and do it, turn the water into wine? What was the deal here? Why did he basically sound like he's saying no, but then go ahead and do it? Same thing with the Syrophoenician woman. Sounded like he told her no twice, and then finally did it. Jesus wasn't goaded into acting in either case. Jesus didn't change his mind in either case. Jesus didn't relent and give up because he was worn down by their pestering. Jesus allowed, in both cases, their faith to shine. This wasn't a case of Jesus wasn't going to do something. In fact, Jesus was very much going to do something. We do have examples where Jesus didn't do anything. And what's it say? We have examples that were told in Matthew 13:58. He did not do many miracles there because of their unbelief. Well, unbelief was not a problem for the Syrophoenician woman. Unbelief was certainly not a problem for Mary, the mother of Jesus. In fact, I like to say she's the first human being who was a believer in Jesus. If anyone knew, she did. This was no accident. And so beautifully, she has enough faith where she just brings it to his attention and says, okay, that part's done. Now you servants, go, he's just do what he says and consider it good. Consider it done. Just the beauty of the matter-of-factness of her faith in her grown son and what he was doing. So again, moms never stop. Mary, the mother of Jesus, didn't stop in her belief in her son and her faith in her son and in her promoting of her son and his ministry and working towards that. So beautiful example there. So while that was a glorious example and the first miracle that Jesus performed, now we go to John chapter 19. After that glorious, beautiful highlight, now we go to what seemed like not so high and great a time. John chapter 19, where Jesus, again, not accepted by his own, is on the cross. He's on the cross with some common thieves, murderers. He's on the cross like an outcast outside the city. His own faithful followers scattered, as was prophesied, strike the shepherd and the sheep will scatter. At the foot of the cross, there are a few people, most of them women. One of them, John the Apostle. One of those women is his own mother. Now, we can't imagine what this is like for Jesus's mother. In fact, I'll pause right here on this, just a quick side note that just struck me. Me being a music guy and appreciating music and different songs. There's a gentleman, a Christian singer, guitar player by the name of Dallas Holm, been around for decades, and very famous for his song, Rise Again. But there was an album he did in the 70s called His Last Days, and he wrote the whole album. The whole album was about Passion Week. And one of the songs in there are two songs that just hit my heart every time I hear them. One is about Jesus feeling the weight of the loneliness and crying out to his Father, like at the Garden of Gethsemane and like on the cross, why have you forsaken me? Just really powerfully hitting. But then the other song is a song a woman sings, on Mary's behalf, about seeing what people have done to her son, who she knows who he is, what he is. And I know the love you moms have for your children and the good you see in them that not always everyone sees, and your belief in what God can do with your kids. Can't imagine what this is for her. And so, verse 25 of John 19. Now beside the cross of Jesus stood his mother's sister Mary, wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene. So when Jesus saw his mother and the disciple whom he loved, John, standing nearby, he said to his mother, pointing to John, "Woman, behold your son." Then he said to the disciple, "Behold your mother." And from that hour, the disciple took her into his own household. So when so many others had abandoned Jesus, his own mother, who had seen him at his greatest, now seeing him at his lowest, is still there with him. as hard as that is for her. Why? Because moms never stop. There's no way she was not going to be there. And Jesus, while he's dying for the sins of the world, the weight of that and the physical pain of everything he's going through, takes the time to look to his mom and point her to John, for John to care for her and for John to take her in as his own. So that's how much she meant to Jesus. That's how much he cared for her and saw her faith, her consistency, her devotion, her never stopping. Moms are there for the greatness and for the high points. Moms are still always there for the low points. And this is a beautiful gift that we're given by God in our moms. Go to Acts chapter 1. So, of course, Jesus ascends on Easter Sunday, Resurrection Sunday. Praise God for that. He's with the church for off and on for these 40 days before his ascension. And so he ascends and the church is gathered. He says, wait for a while. And so they hang in Jerusalem until 10 days later, the day of Pentecost. But in Acts chapter 1, look at verse 14, talking about the church being assembled now, waiting for what was promised after Jesus has moved on. Jesus has gone back to heaven. Acts 1:14, all these were continually devoting themselves with one mind to prayer, along with the women, and Mary, the mother of Jesus, and with his brothers. So even after Jesus has ascended into heaven, his work with the church is done, on earth is done. Mary didn't say, okay, I sat loyally by his side through it all. His work is done. Okay, now I'm going to move on. Now the church can do its thing. No, she was still there. She was with the church. She was now part of this. And not only that, his brothers. Now, I'm probably wrong here in what I'm about to say, because his brothers did not believe in him as the Messiah during his lifetime. But now they're here. Brothers being James, who wrote the letter of the book of James, we have in our Bibles. Jude, who wrote the book of Jude, we have in our Bibles. James would be the pastor of the church in Jerusalem. So I just have this image in my head, and I'm sure I'm wrong. But I can just imagine Mary at this point grabbing those two brothers by their ears and saying, okay, enough's enough now. Here, let's go forward. Let's do this. Come on now. And so sometimes it takes some other waking us up and shaking us up. But Mary never stopped. And the brothers finally came around. Beautiful testimony that we have there. So what does this tell us? The example of these moms that we have for our benefit here. That when it comes to the gift of life and everything that God provides for us, everything that God is desiring for us and asking from us in promotion of this life, Mary is a beautiful, glorious example of the fact that the job, the call, and the love, they carry on. Moms never stop because the love never stops. The need never stops. The burden, the desire never stops. The opportunity to love and to see through never stops. So one of the great ways we can honor moms and the blessings they are to us today is for us to look to their example and never stop ourselves. If moms continue, then we can continue. If our moms continue for us, we can continue. And keep in mind, moms are a gift from God. And that's where we're going to close in Isaiah. 3 passages in Isaiah, just a couple verses. Isaiah chapter 46 to start with. Isaiah chapter 46. Look at 2 verses. So moms are moms from the start to the finish, from the womb to the end. We'll look at how moms are an example to us of the love of God for us, because he gave them to us. Isaiah 46, verse 3, the Lord says, "Listen to me, house of Jacob, and all the remnant of the house of Israel, you who have been carried by me from birth, and have been carried from the womb, even to your old age. I will be the same. And even to your graying years, I will carry you. I have done it, and I will bear you, and I will carry you, and I will save you. This imagery is hearkening back to motherhood. God, the glorious Father above, is relating to motherhood and saying, even from the womb, I am carrying you as a mother carries her child. From the womb, through birth, all the way through to your old age, your graying years, I will carry you. I've done it, I'll bear you, I'll carry you, I will save you. So God, trying to express his love for us, uses the imagery to call to mind for us the love of a mom, because moms never stop. They are an example of God, our Father, whose love never stops. Go to chapter 49 for one verse. Isaiah 49:15. Again, when God the Father is looking for an example that he can use to describe how unstoppable his love for us is, what is the example he gives? There are other passages where he talks about his faithfulness in the covenant. He said, if the stars in the heavens fall out of their place, if the constellations stop doing what they're doing, if the planets and everything stops doing what they're doing, yeah, then my covenant will fall. These things that are permanent fixtures, these things, he says, if the way of nature and the way of the weather, if all that stuff goes away, yeah, then my covenant won't stand. He says his covenant is as faithful as the weather, as faithful as the bodies in the heavens. So what's his example of showing his unchanging, unstopping love for us? Isaiah 49, one verse 15. Can a woman forget her nursing child and have no compassion on the son of her womb? Yeah, right. But what does he say? Even these may forget, but I will not forget you. Basically, what God is saying is, as hard as it is for us to imagine that a woman would forget her nursing child and have no compassion on the son of her womb, as hard to imagine as that is, he says, even if that should happen, my love for you will not stop. The example he could think of and come up with was the love, the powerful, unstopping love of a mother for her nursing child, her compassion on the son of her womb. That is the deep example that the Lord lifted up to showcase his love for us. As unlikely as it is for that mother's love to stop, even if that should happen, my love won't. So that was the example he brought up to show us. We'll close in Isaiah 66. Last chapter. Isaiah 66, verse 13. Again, God looking for an example to explain to us, for us to understand and see his love for us. The example he uses is moms. Isaiah 66, verse 13. God says, as one whom his mother comforts, so I will comfort you, and you will be comforted in Jerusalem. The best example God could think of the comfort he has to offer us is the comfort of a mother. Because moms never stop. Their comfort never stops. When, I know it's kind of a classic imagery, when someone stubs their toe, they cry out, "Mommy!" Because that's an instinctive reaction, who to call out for or cry out to when you're hurting. And so that basic natural instinct to cry out to mom, and why is that built into us to cry out to mom? Because mom is there. Because moms don't stop. So as natural and instinctive and automatic reflex as it is to cry out mommy, to cry out to mom when we're hurting, because moms are faithful to comfort as only a mom can, God is saying that comfort, that one-of-a-kind comfort from mom That's the comfort I have for you. And not only that, I'm going to have the comfort for you in our home in Jerusalem together. As one whom his mother comforts, so I will comfort you. You will be comforted in Jerusalem. So the moral of the story, moms never stop because they are a gift from God who never stops. So just as the Syrophoenician mother would not give up because of her desire for her daughter who is hurting and her faith in Jesus, even towards her as a Gentile outsider, just as Mary, even when Jesus, her son, was grown up, still knew and had faith and was still there to encourage him, still there to see his work and rejoice in his ministry in action, and still had love and faith to be with him at the low point of his abandonment and betrayal and being left for death on the cross. And even after Jesus had gone and descended to heaven, was no longer on this earth, Mary was still here with his church, being about the things of her son, because moms never stop. And so God the Father, even through the book of Isaiah, 700 years before Jesus, points to moms as these examples of his love for us. The love of mom will never stop. And so I will never stop loving you. Look to moms as examples of this beautiful love that I have for you. See your moms as the gift they are at pointing to me. I love you so much that I give you these moms. And so we today, we take this day, and obviously we want to honor our moms and our ladies every day, but we take this special day set aside to notice that we see the ladies of this church for who they are, the gift from God. And not just the moms, but also the ladies just as women, as gifts of God. You are an inspiration for us. You are a motivation for us. As Reagan said, if it weren't for the ladies, we'd still be in the caves, us men. And and so while we hunter-gatherer providers, might want to provide the framework and the protection and all that stuff, it is truly you ladies that make our houses a home. You fill it, you give us fullness and beauty and inspiration and joy. And that is true of our own households. That is certainly true of this church as well. This church, I'll tell you right now, would not be the same without the ladies. We're just us guys. It'd be a totally different church. And I'm so grateful for the ladies you have. You are a blessing to us. You are a joy for us. And we do thank God for you and rejoice in being reminded of God by seeing the love and the life and the fact that you all don't stop. So thank you. We love you. And with that, let's close and have a song of invitation. While we are rejoicing and celebrating the moms and the ladies of this church, if anyone's going through anything, if you have a need or a burden or a desire, or just need to spend some time with the Lord, the altar is available for just that. And he can, of course, as always, work with you where you stand as well. Let's take this time, go before the Lord in song, in prayer and praise, and use this time to draw close to him and offer up our thanks for the ladies of this church and for his work in our lives and bringing us together. As we see, what number, Brother Clay? Page 85. That's